Deep in the silent void beyond the fringe of explored space, the UEN Horizon's Reach drifted on patrol, its sleek gray hull reflecting the dim light of a distant sun. Inside, Commander Alina Reyes sat in the dim glow of the command deck, sipping cold coffee and watching static roll across the comms display. Most patrol missions were uneventful, and after months without anything more exciting than monitoring asteroid drift or distant quasar bursts, even Rise had started to think this sector was truly empty. But then it came a flicker of sound, barely there, buried beneath radiation bursts and interference so thick it looked like noise. At first, the signal was thought to be a glitch, but Chief Comms Officer Brill narrowed his eyes, ran a spectral filter, and froze. "Commander," he said, voice tight. "There's a pattern in the static. Someone's transmitting old-school analog, layered under plasma interference." Reyes straightened. "Translate it." Minutes passed. When the audio finally played, the voice was broken and weak, almost choked by static, but the message was unmistakable. "Help us please, under attack station failing survivors. SOS. The crew went quiet. It wasn't a human voice. It clicked and buzzed in unnatural ways. Alien. Unknown. But one thing was clear. Someone out there needed help. A vote was held among the bridge officers. Protocol suggested caution, but humanity had earned a certain reputation over the years as the unpredictable species, the wild card, the ones who didn't always play by the rules. And when someone called for help, humanity answered. Reyes ordered a warp jump to the signal's coordinates, despite the risk. The engine screamed to life, and the stars outside blurred into long white streaks. When they arrived, what they saw left even the most battle-hardened crew silent. The station was massive, larger than any human outpost, but half of it was wrecked, with metal torn open like paper, fires still burning in its midsection. Small escape pods floated lifelessly around the debris, their lights flickering. "No heat signatures on most of them," reported Brill. "But wait. I'm picking up faint life signs inside the station." Rise nodded. "Prep an away team. I'm going in." The boarding team moved through dark corridors lit only by emergency lights. Inside, they found the survivors tall, insect-like aliens with shimmering blue exoskeletons, barely clinging to life. Their limbs were burned, some missing entirely, and their eyes large, dark, and terrified locked onto the humans with a strange mixture of hope and fear. One of them, clutching a translator unit, croaked out words between gasps. "You came? You are the ones who answered?" Reyes nodded, kneeling beside the alien. "Who did this to you?" The alien trembled, his voice shaking. "The Reapers. They came without warning. Machines. Cold they killed without speaking." He looked at Reyes, his voice suddenly filled with panic. "You must go. If you stay, they will come again. They will kill you too." "We're not leaving you," Reyes said firmly, signaling her team to begin evacuation. As the humans carried the wounded toward their shuttle, Brill's voice came over the comms. "Commander, multiple warp signatures just appeared at the system's edge. 17. No, 20 ships inbound." Reyes felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "Can you identify them?" "No human ID match," Brill said. "But they fit the alien's description. Black hulls, spine-like shapes. Reaper-class signatures." The alien clutched Rise's arm. "You brought them. They follow distress calls. They let us scream so others will come, then they kill again." Reyes stood, her expression hardening. "All units, back to the ship. Prepare for combat." As the team raced back through the station, the stars outside began to shift. The Reapers had arrived. As the black shapes emerged from the edge of the system, the crew of the Horizon's Reach stared at the screens in tense silence. 20 enemy vessels, each shaped like something pulled from a nightmare, twisted metal, long spines, and glowing red lines that pulsed like veins, approached without hesitation. Commander Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, eyes narrowed, calculating their chances. "Shields up," she ordered, and the hum of the ship shifted as defense systems kicked in. The alien survivors, now resting in the medical bay, huddled together, sensing the incoming doom they had already lived through once. The Katali, as they were called, had barely survived the first attack, and now the same machines had returned, this time drawn by the humans who dared to answer a dying call. Brill, the communications officer, worked frantically to intercept any signal from the incoming ships. "They're broadcasting something," he said. "Translating now." The message was cold, emotionless, and chilling. "We are the Varnak Directive. You interfered with a sterilization process. Withdraw or be erased." Reyes didn't flinch. "Open a channel," she said. Then she stood, hands behind her back, and spoke with steel in her voice. "This is Commander Reyes of the United Earth Navy. Your sterilization ends here. You will not touch another innocent life while we breathe." There was no reply. Instead, the Varnak ship split into a wide formation and accelerated. Weapons lit up across their hulls like burning stars. "Evasive maneuvers," Reyes shouted. The Horizon's reach rolled to the side just as a blast of energy tore past, shaking the ship and dimming lights for half a second. Human weapons responded with brutal precision railguns and plasma turrets locking on and punching through the enemy shields. The first kill came quickly. A Varnak vessel, too slow to dodge, was ripped in half by a triple torpedo burst. The crew cheered, but only briefly. "They're adapting," warned Tactical Officer Juan. Next, volley bounced off their shields. The Varnak had a hive mind they learned with every second, evolving during the fight. Reyes knew that staying alone would lead to defeat. "Send the emergency beacon," she said. "Activate Earth Code Omega Red. Let them know we need backup now." In the medical bay, one of the Catalai woke up and saw the humans fighting. His eyes widened as he whispered, "You challenge the Reapers alone?" Nearby, a human nurse adjusted his oxygen line and replied calmly, "We don't leave friends behind." Outside, the battle grew fierce. A squad of Varnak drones latched onto the hull like parasites, trying to cut through. Marines in powered armor responded, marching through vacuum with magnetic boots, firing bursts of white-hot plasma that lit up the dark. Inside the ship, alarms blared. "Hull breach on Deck 9. Someone shouted. "We've got them inside." Reyes didn't hesitate. "Seal the deck, vent the air." But now, a whoosh echoed through the walls as Deck 9 turned into a wind tunnel, sucking the invaders into space. Reyes clenched her jaw. "Report? Infiltrators gone." "Minor damage," said engineering. "We're holding." For now. Another blast rocked the ship. "Enemy reinforcements arriving," Brill said. "We count 30 total now." The odds were getting worse. Reyes knew they couldn't survive forever. But they didn't need forever, just enough time. Then, a flicker of hope. Brill shouted, "We got a signal back. Earth has acknowledged Omega Red. Fleet response confirmed ET of 4 days." Rice looked at the growing swarm of enemy ships and nodded. "Then we buy 4 days with everything we've got." The next attack came harder. The Varnak had released virus drones, metallic spheres that emitted pulses designed to fry electronics. One burst near the bridge, knocking out auxiliary power. Screens flickered. Gravity stuttered. Rise held onto a console as the floor lurched. "Reroute power through backup circuits," she barked. Engineering worked fast, and within seconds, the lights stabilized. But the damage was spreading. They had to be smarter. Reyes gathered her officers. "We can't beat them by brute force. Not alone. But if we hurt them just enough, make them think we're more trouble than we're worth, maybe we can delay their full force until backup gets here." A new plan formed: hit and fade attacks, fake engine failures, radiation bursts to blind sensors. Human tactics were messy, unpredictable, unlike the cold efficiency of the Varnak. The plan worked for a while. The enemy began to slow down, confused by sudden retreats and flanking moves. Rice even managed to destroy 2 more ships using a gravity slingshot maneuver around the nearby moon. But each success came at a cost. They lost a Marine team to an ambush. 2 corridors were sealed permanently due to damage. Still, they held on. By the end of the second day, Rise stood over the galactic map, her face pale but determined. "They're testing us," she said. "But they don't understand us." Brill nodded. "They think we'll break. They haven't met Earth's stubbornness." Just then, the Varnak sent another message. "You are alone. No species defies the directive and lives. You will burn like the others." Rise stepped forward and replied without hesitation. "You've made a mistake. Humans don't scare easy. And we don't run." Outside, the black ships repositioned, preparing for a new assault. Inside, the crew armed every last weapon, checked every system, and braced themselves. Somewhere far beyond, help was coming. But until then, they were the wall. And the wall would not fall. For 3 endless days, the crew of the Horizon's Reach fought like cornered wolves, bloodied but unbroken, as the black sky outside boiled with enemy ships. Every hour brought another wave from the Varnak directive, their cold, mechanical minds calculating each attack with brutal efficiency, yet still the humans held them off with stubborn defiance and unpredictable tactics. The ship's hull was scarred, her engines sputtering, but the spirit aboard remained fierce. Inside the medical bay, the Katali survivors watched in stunned silence as the humans bled, burned, and still returned to battle stations with clenched jaws and fierce eyes. To the Cat-Eye, raised on stories of peaceful diplomacy and cautious survival, the humans were something out of legend, beings from a death world who thrived in chaos, who stood when others fled, who didn't just protect, but fought like wildfire when something precious was threatened. Commander Alina Reyes, pale from sleepless nights and bruised from a glancing blow during a hull breach, moved through the corridors with quiet determination, checking in on every team, offering a nod here, a sharp command there, her very presence anchoring the morale of her people. On the bridge, Brill was slumped over his station, eyes scanning long-range sensors with a kind of desperate hope, until suddenly his voice broke the silence. "Commander, something's coming." Reyes straightened. "Varnak?" "No. Bigger. Faster. Human transponder codes." For a breathless second, no one moved. Then Brill turned with a wide grin. "It's them." Fleet just dropped from warp. Cheers erupted across the ship, and even Rise allowed a small smile to cross her face. Outside the windows, space twisted and bloomed with light as one after another, Earth's warships arrived, massive, gleaming vessels with names etched in bold letters across their armored hulls. UN Resolute Dawn, Thunderchild, Indomitable, and at the center of them all, the colossal Dreadnought. Loyal Resolve, a floating fortress bristling with weapons and escorted by carriers, frigates, and cruisers in perfect formation. Admiral Harlan Bakey's voice came through the channel, calm and powerful. "Horizon's Reach. This is Task Force Ironwall. We are here. You held the line, now we take it from here." The crew erupted into applause, and even some of the Kali let out clicking sounds of awe. But the moment of relief was short. The Varnak responded immediately, shifting their formation, and for the first time they seemed to hesitate, as if calculating the new threat. Reyes contacted the Admiral. "They won't back down," she said. "They think surrender is weakness." Bakey nodded grimly on the screen. "Then we show them what strength looks like." Within minutes, the battle turned into a full-scale war. Earth's fleet moved like a living creature, launching squadrons of drones, missile salvos, and pulse cannons that lit the dark like stars exploding. The Varnak fought back with ruthless precision, releasing swarms of virus drones, launching beam strikes, even attempting to hack the fleet's systems, but the humans had come prepared. Advanced AI firewalls adapted faster than the invaders expected. One Varnak cruiser tried to flank the fleet only to be caught in a crossfire between the Thunderchild and a carrier squadron, its hull torn apart before it could even fire. In the medbay, Cantali engineer Zixtail watched with wide, unblinking eyes, whispering to another survivor, "This is why they are feared. They come like fire and sky, and they do not stop." On the ground of the broken station below, joint human-Katali teams secured the last remaining chambers, rooting out Varnak infiltrators with brutal coordination. Human marines in armored suits moved like titans, while catalyzed scientists hacked systems and rerouted power to shields and weapons. Together, they were no longer victims and saviors, they were allies. Rias, now back on the bridge, directed orbital strikes with deadly precision. Target nodes along their central cluster break their line of communication. Tactical feeds showed Varnak ships scattering, confused, their synchronization faltering as human disruptor missiles shredded their comm relays. The tide was turning. But just as hope surged, something massive dropped into the system. The Varnak flagship, 10 times larger than anything seen so far, with an eerie red glow across its surface, arrived with a gravitational wake that rippled space. It moved slowly, confidently, ignoring the smaller skirmishes around it. "That thing's a command vessel," Brill whispered. "They brought their queen." Reyes glanced at the admiral. "Ready for one more dance?" Mbaki's reply came instantly. "We finished this." The next hour was chaos. The flagship unleashed a new kind of weapon, a gravity pulse that twisted metal and disrupted shields. Earth ships reeled, 2 frigates disabled instantly. Reyes made the call. "Coordinate with all heavy guns. Focus fire on weak points." We hit it together. With perfect timing, a combined salvo of high-yield plasma torpedoes, railgun strikes, and focused particle beams slammed into the Varnak flagship's underbelly. The hull cracked. Then it split. The explosion lit up the system like a second sun. Across the Varnak fleet, their formation collapsed, and ships began warping away, not out of strategy but fear. For the first time, the Varnak understood what they were facing. Not just another species. Not just another obstacle. But Deathworlders, beings born of hostile environments, raised in storms, molded by fire, and taught to fight not just to survive, but to protect. As the last enemy vessel vanished into the dark, Rise exhaled and sank into her chair. Around her, the crew let out a breath they hadn't realized they'd been holding. Down in the medbay, the Katali began to chant, not in fear this time, but in reverence. One of them stepped forward and said softly, "You are not reapers. You are something more. You bring death to those who deserve it." Reyes smiled faintly at that. Outside, the Earth fleet began securing the area, salvaging what could be saved and preparing for what came next. But the message was clear. Across the stars, anyone listening would know if you call for help and humanity answers. Your enemies won't survive the arrival. The battlefield was quiet now, filled only with drifting debris and the faint flicker of dying fires. But no one on board Horizon's Reach was celebrating. Not yet, because the war was far from over and everyone knew it. This was only a battle won, not the end of the war. The Earth fleet remained in formation, patrolling the system's edge like sentinels made of steel, scanning for any trace of returning Varnak ships. Commander Alina Reyes stood at the command deck, staring out at the ruined station that had started it all, her expression calm but unreadable. The Katali survivors were safe now, taken aboard various ships for care and recovery, but something still troubled her. The Varnak's retreat had been too sudden, too clean, almost as if they'd planned it, and that made her uneasy. Admiral Mbaki had the same concern, his voice low and steady over the comms as he said, "They'll be back, Rise. They're not used to being hurt, and they're not the kind to leave loose ends." Across the fleet, preparations began immediately. Repair crews worked around the clock, reinforcing damaged hulls, patching vented sections, and restocking ammunition. The Katali, though still weak, offered help, revealing parts of the station that contained old alien tech capable of enhancing defensive systems, things humanity had never seen before. Reyes coordinated with Katali engineers and Earth scientists to study it fast. Any edge would matter. Then, just before the second night began, Brill picked up a strange frequency again, not like before, but deeper, heavier, as if something was reaching through the void. "It's not a distress call," he said, adjusting the filters. "It's a challenge or a warning." The message repeated only once, in a metallic voice, "We have seen your fire. Now see our will." Moments later, scanners flared. A Varnak fleet 10 times larger than before emerged from hyperspace, not just warships this time, but massive carriers, strange twisted vessels shaped like claws and spears, and something new among them, huge structures that didn't move, didn't shoot, but seemed to pulse with energy like a living heart. Reyes realized it immediately. "Those are hive beacons," she said. "They're trying to lock this system down, make it part of their network." Mbaki's voice came through, sharp and focused. "If they finish that process, the entire region will belong to them, and any species inside it will be considered cleansed. We stop them here, or we lose everything we've gained." Orders flew across channels. Earth's fleet moved into strategic position, dividing into assault, defense, and stealth wings. Reyes volunteered Horizon's Reach for the forward strike. "We were the first to arrive," she said. "Let us be the first to hit back." With a nod from Mbaki, the attack began. What followed was not a battle of brute force, but of raw willpower. The Varnak tried to bring order to the chaos, aligning their forces in perfect formations, while humanity broke that order with guerrilla tactics, cloaked flanking runs, and unpredictable assaults. Reyes used every dirty trick in the book: false retreats, gravity mines, fake distress calls, and the Varnak, for all their calculation, struggled to keep up. But the hive beacons began to activate. One by one, they lit up with red pulses, creating a field that jammed Earth's sensors and started pulling ships toward their energy cores. Reyes knew they had to destroy those structures, no matter the cost. She led a strike herself, diving through enemy lines, flying Horizon's Reach dangerously close to the beacon's edge, and releasing an experimental warhead created just days before. The explosion rippled through space, and the beacon shattered in a shockwave that disabled nearby Varnak ships. But they adapted fast. The second beacon activated new defenses, mini-shield drones that blocked incoming fire and created a zone of death around it. Earth's ships began to suffer. The UEN Defender lost her engines and spun out into a dead orbit. The Resolute Dawn took 3 hits to the bridge and went silent. Inside Horizon's Reach, Rise gave a brutal order to ram the beacon directly if their weapons failed. "We don't let them win," she said. "Not here." But then something changed. A Catali engineer named Threx entered the bridge with a strange device, one salvaged from the wreck station, a neural disruptor once banned by their own people for being too dangerous. "This can stop the beacon," he said. "But someone must be close, and it will not survive the feedback." Reyes stared at the device, then looked out at the battlefield where everything hung in balance. A moment later, she grabbed it. "I'll take it," she said. But Brill stepped forward. "No, Commander. You lead. I'll go." A silence passed between them, filled with respect. Then, without further word, Brill took a shuttle, flew it straight into the fire, weaving through laser beams and debris, dodging drone swarms by inches. He reached the second beacon, slammed the disruptor into its core, and triggered the pulse. The beacon howled as its systems fried. The energy field vanished. Brill's shuttle was caught in the backlash and disintegrated in a flash of light. The crew watched in stunned silence as the Varnak fleet shuddered, their formations faltering again. Raz, jaw clenched with emotion, spoke softly. His name was Brill. "Remember it." With 2 beacons down, only one remained, the largest, deep inside the enemy fleet. Earth's forces rallied. Ships once on the verge of collapse surged forward. The Catali joined the assault, piloting repaired shuttles armed with scavenged weapons. It became more than tactics now, it was a test of who could endure longer. The Varnak brought numbers. Humanity brought will. In the final charge, Rise led the fleet personally, coordinating fire with split-second precision, pushing the limits of every ship, every system. The last beacon cracked, then exploded with a shockwave so bright it lit the system's outer moons. The Varnak, stunned and broken, began to retreat once more. And this time, they did not return. Silence settled over the battlefield like a cold wind after a storm, broken only by the faint static of damaged comms and the distant hum of power systems flickering back to life. But no one moved right away, not out of fear, but because the weight of what they had done was finally catching up to them. The Varnak had fled again, this time not as a tactical retreat, but as a defeated force that had underestimated its enemy, and the sight of their shattered ships drifting into nothingness was proof that they had met something they did not understand: a species that refused to surrender, that fought, not just with weapons, but with purpose. Inside Horizon's Reach, Commander Alina Reyes stood at the wide viewing window, her eyes locked on the place where the last beacon had been, her reflection flickering against the stars. She looked tired, but not weak, her shoulders still straight, her stance still unshaken. Around her, the crew was quiet, mourning Brill and the others who had fallen, yet holding their heads high because they had made his sacrifice mean something. In the distance, ships from the Earth fleet began towing back survivors, clearing debris, and collecting what Varnak technology they could before the scavengers came. Rhea stepped away from the window as a soft alert sounded, a diplomatic signal, not human, not Varnak, but Cantali. She moved to the console and opened the channel. On the other end was Zixtal, no longer shaking with fear like before, but standing tall with a group of elders behind him. "We owe you more than thanks," he said. "We owe you our lives, our future, and more importantly, our trust." Reyes nodded, her voice calm. "We didn't come here for payment. We came because you asked for help." But Zixtal replied quickly, "And that is why we offer more than thanks." The image on the screen shifted to a dark chamber somewhere deep inside the ancient Cantali station, where glowing runes covered the walls and a large central console pulsed with energy. "This is our Vault of Accord," Zixtal said. "A place no outsider has ever entered. Inside is a key, not a weapon, but knowledge. Maps, history, star systems lost to time, technologies buried by fear. We offer it to humanity, not because we are weak, but because we have seen your heart." Reyes felt the weight of the moment, knowing that this wasn't just an offer of information, but of alliance, one made with purpose. "Why now?" she asked. Zixtal's response was simple. "Because only now have we seen what it means to fight for something beyond survival. You could have run. You didn't. You could have saved yourselves. Instead, you saved us." As the vault began to open, engineers from Earth and Catalai walked side by side into the chamber. Inside, ancient machines flickered to life, showing holograms of forgotten worlds, blueprints of technology that could revolutionize faster than light travel, defensive systems far more advanced than anything Earth had, and something else, a record of first contact with a species even older than them. Varnak, one that had vanished mysteriously. Reyes forwarded the information to Admiral McKee, who responded not with excitement, but caution. "This could change everything," he said. "But it also paints a target on our backs. If the Varnak know what we've gained, they'll come harder next time." Reyes didn't disagree. The Varnak didn't tolerate failure, and their pride would not allow a death-world species like humanity to walk away with victory. But she also understood something deeper. This wasn't just about fighting anymore. It was about what kind of future they were building. Later that day, aboard the Earth flagship Loyal Resolve, a meeting was held between human leaders and the Catalai Council. No translators, no filtered signals, only face-to-face conversation, quiet, serious, and real. They spoke not as victims and saviors, but as equals. The Katali offered the Vault's knowledge in full, and in return asked for shared defense protocols, training in human combat strategy, and a promise that humanity would never use their strength to conquer weaker species. "We do not ask for protection alone," one elder said. "We ask to stand beside you, not behind you." Mbeki leaned forward. "Then let's write a pact, something no empire, no invasion, no machine can erase." The pact was simple: unity in defense, respect in peace, and shared knowledge to prevent the darkness of the past from repeating. The signing took place under the stars, with both flags raised high, and as the ink dried on the digital scrolls, a message was sent out across neutral space, not as a threat, but as a declaration. The Kali and the humans stand together. The message rippled across systems, reaching allies, enemies, and watchers in the dark. On distant worlds, whispers began. On Varnak command ships hiding in the void, commanders snarled in silence. On neutral planets that once feared humanity, minds began to change. Back aboard Horizon's Reach, Rhea stood in her quarters, watching the new data come online, thinking not about weapons or fleets, but about Brill, about those who had given everything so others could live. She touched the edge of a photo taped to her console Brill, and the crew during quiet days before the signal, all smiling, all unaware of what would come. She whispered to the stars, "We did it." In the shadows of space, a new alliance had been born. Not of domination, but of survival through unity. A pact not written in power, but in will. And though war still lingered on the horizon, though enemies still plotted in the dark, one truth now echoed louder than fear itself. If the Death Worlders were called again, they would answer, and this time they would not stand alone.